Welcome, one and all. I'm Decoy, and I'm going to start doing something a little bit special for the next several episodes because each episode is going to feature just one part of the map. So this week it's nothing but forest locations. This is something I've wanted to do for quite a while because I know some people just fall in love with a particular part of the map and they don't want to move. They just want to check out other spots in that area. So a little bit of a downside, I have shown all of these locations before, but they're well worth revisiting. Starting off in the forest, we have this awesome little raider-style camp that has a fairly large structure. Not only that, it is really vertical. It's possibly one of the most vertical structures in the forest for you to camp at. Now, downside to this area is going to be that enemies can spawn here. Normally it's only a couple, and they are low level, so not that big of a deal. But I think the trade-off in this camp would be worth it, because you've got plenty of junk, plenty of containers, and then to top it off, you're getting several workbenches. You're getting a cooking station, you're getting an armor workbench, and a weapons workbench. With the budget that you could free up by not having those workbenches, and the pre-existing structure, that should more than cover your turret costs for throwing down a couple to deal with your pesky unwanted guest. Overall, solid spot, and location-wise, it's going to keep you close to the White Spring, which I know is a make or break kind of thing for a lot of people. And luckily, it will keep you well outside of any nuke zone there. Moving on to a fairly overlooked spot. I can't think of more than maybe a couple times that I've seen a camp here. Now, a good takeaway from here, if you're not going to camp here, is there's a random spawn right here. So there's no telling what might pop up there. Now, outside the house, you've got a little bit of useful stuff going on. Not a lot, but there's a little bit going on. The biggest thing to take away from it's going to be the armor workbench. Freeing up a little bit of budget, always nice. Now, inside the house, you've only got access to the basement area, which is kind of a bummer, but hey, at least there's plenty of pool balls in here. That's some useful junk. Now, I will say that you do have a fair amount of usable space against the walls to throw stuff in. I really wish that pool table wasn't there, though, because if that pool table wasn't there, that would be an extremely awesome room. Now, on top of that room, there's like an additional little porch area up here with an ammo box and a duffel bag. So a couple of little containers. Overall, I know this isn't the most amazing spot, but you do get a workbench. There's a random spawn near here, which, if you're camping here, you might break it. So fair warning on that. Now, enemies don't spawn there. That's another good thing. But enemies may spawn at the random spawn. Just something to consider. Location-wise, it's not the best, and that's probably why people aren't normally camping there. But let's move on to an amazing spot for anyone doing a cult, Mothman cult playthrough, anything like that. This is the creepiest spot. And it has an animal spawn here, which was rad stags that are somehow reminded me of cats because they were sticking their butt in my face. Yeah, no, I'm not proud of it. So at this location, we've got several dead cult members. So that's some free containers. But really, if you're camping here for just the absolute creepiness of this spot. I would imagine that if you are someone doing a cult playthrough, this is a location you're probably going to want to camp at some point while playing the game. I mean, I can't think of anywhere else that quite tops this on the creepy scale. That's the spot. Super cool, and really, I don't run into many people camping there either. which is rather surprising because that spot is really cool. But anyways, let's move on. And our next location. I do see people camping here from time to time. Not as much as you would think, though. So if you're going to check this place out and you're coming from the vault, you're probably going to be looking for that target right there. That's going to be your giveaway that you're at the right area. Right in front of it, there is a hole which leads into a cave. You're probably going to want to block that up, though, if you're camping there. Or you can do like some people have done and make it an absolute trap where you fall down in there to get to vending machines and then murder people. Because that's what people do. Now, inside the cave, it's not particularly large, but you've got a tiny bit that you can work with. Now, coming back to this spot to record it just kind of bummed me out, because it just drives home the fact that there's not that many caves in the game. And I find it rather surprising. I feel like there should be far more caves than there are, but there's only a really small handful of them. And in a recent update, we lost possibly the coolest cave of them all to the next vault. Kind of bummed me out. But location-wise, if you're someone that has to be near Vault 76 for vending purposes, I think that should keep you kinda close enough to it, but still give you a really cool camp location. Continuing on to possibly one of the most useful of the forest locations out there, we've got this little tea party going on here. Now, one cool takeaway from this, if you don't have Foshnok balloons, it's a camp location with balloons, so that's kind of cool. Now, there's a fair amount of junk sitting around on the table, food, a bunch of hats. Like, I think you'll be set on hats for a little while. But the table and all that really isn't the most important part about this spot. The most important takeaway from this location is actually the resource, because it's crystal, and crystal is extremely rare. I mean, ridiculously so. That is possibly one of the most valuable resource locations in the game. So, if you're someone looking for crystal, that's your spot. That's where you want to be. And now, we'll wrap it up with an extremely cool spot that I'm surprised you can still camp at. And that's Vault 51. Oh, I remember way back when camping here before this vault even had a number. Of course, back then it was a lot buggier, where you would be walking around slowly floating up off of the ground over here because they just weren't done working on it. But luckily, that's all been fixed since then. Now, inside this trailer, you got some kickballs. You also have some bulk cloth. I know it's cloth, not the most useful thing, but hey, it's some bulk junk. You can't really turn your nose up at that. Okay, maybe you can. Now's not the time for that. You've got plenty of junk around the area, just scattered around. And for camp locations, like, it is really cool being able to camp at a vault. It does kind of suck for how high up on the map it is. But man, just walking through this place, I can still see where my camp was, what it looked like. Of course, I could do that by going back and watching a video of my camp, but that's beside the point. Now down here, this area is important really for one reason and one reason only. And no, it's not the kickball. It's that Nuka Shine bottle right there, giving you just some extra help on having a random person just show up at your camp. The kickballs are definitely awesome though. So overall, really cool camp location. Now next week we'll move in to Toxic Valley. Hopefully you all will enjoy that. I've actually recorded all the locations I need all the way through. So, hopefully we don't lose any camp locations, right? I hope you've enjoyed this. Please remember to like, sub, and share. Later!